Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Vince. And this evening, I'm going to be chattering about the film Preternatural, which was made on a budget of £100. That's 150 euro. You're saying it's probably a little bit more in dollars, about $170, something like that. And I'm joined by Gav and Paul. Would you like to say hello and identify yourselves, just so we know?
Hello.
Hi, I'm Gav C still. I am the director of the said film, and this is...
I'm Paul Dixon Barker. I'm the writer of Preternatural. So, and if you see me, you obviously can't see our hands. So if you see me looking shocked at any point, we are next to each other. Gav has probably touched me inappropriately.
It's going to be one of those shows.
that's the tone drop straight away.
Yeah. Let's face it, you can't possibly no, please don't try and top Tristan Risk in terms of inappropriate behavior. I love Tristan, don't get me wrong. Anyway, I just wanted, there are a few pieces of news before we continue on news, and I start talking to you about Preternatural. That's just to congratulate Myco Entertainment, MYCHO, Myco Entertainment, for the premiere of Hollower, in which I star, at the Horror on Sea convention over at South Sea. That's happening tonight. They also had a really big premiere last weekend as well, which went very, very well, for Cleaver the Killer Clown, if I've got that right. And they're going to be joining me in March, one of the shows in March. So that's Mike and Anna from Myco Entertainment. I had talked about doing a blog this week. Sorry, stuff got on top of me, including the lurgy and being away in Scotland, but it's coming out in the next couple of days. Next week, I'm joined by Gigi Guerrero as part of the Women in Horror Month. Obviously, I'm also going to be joined by Katie Bonham on Valentine's Day and Lisa Ovis the following week. So I've got a great 3 guests lined up for Women in Horror Month. And at the end of the month, also part of Women in Horror Month, I'm going to be in Dublin at Screenwriting, along with Barbie Wilde, and Simon Bamford has just been announced as well, and Jessica Cameron's going to be there, and Tony Todd, whole load of great guests. So if you're in Dublin, do come along and say hello to us. And speaking of Irish film creators, Paddy Murphy, who is the writer-director of Retribution, is going to be coming on the show in March as well. And yeah, so I think we've got some really, really interesting guests and shows lined up. And just to remind everybody that you can either put in questions via the comments on Google. Craig is going to be monitoring those. And if you'd like to tweet a question, just use the hashtag ChatteringNick. So hashtag ChatteringNick, and I will see those as well. Okay, cool. All right, then that's all me. That's all my stuff out the way. So I'm going to start with Paul. You wanted to just, how can people find out more about Preternatural to begin with?
So, well, at the moment, the movie is it's only been shown to a select few. Because no one else wants to watch it. No, because so we are obviously currently looking for distribution at the moment, and we're doing some festival stuff, which we'll chat about later. So the best channel at the moment, if you go to Facebook, and it's Facebook.com/Preternatural 2015, you can come across it on Facebook via the search tool, obviously on there, and you can find out all the stuff, and you can connect with us on there. And there is also a trailer on YouTube. It's just a teaser trailer, which you can obviously see as well to get kind of a little bit of a flavour of the movie. I think that's probably the best way to connect. I think, yeah. No, it's not that exciting, was it? Really?
Hey, that's what I've got for Night Whispered. I should actually, oh yeah, Night Whispered, my short film. The editing is coming along well. We're getting very, very close to picture. I keep on forgetting to remind people about this. My short film, The Night Whispered. It's going to be amazing. So, and you can sign up for newsletters and so on my website, along with the blog. You're also working on a short film with a gentleman called Mark Brennan. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've hopefully. Not anymore. And I'm a short story writer as well, and this was a published short story, given a couple of anthologies a year or so ago. Yeah, he's a guy called Mark. He's become a friend of mine. He directed he's directed quite a few shorts. He directed a great little short with John Chalice, who was Boise in Only Fools and Horses, and Amanda Barry, called T for Two, which did some really good stuff in the festivals. And hopefully we're going to make the short story bumps into a short film sometime around Easter or the summer. So it's probably a 2 or 3 minute short. So it's a short. But yeah,
It's a micro short.
A micro short, yeah.
And Gav, I understand you've also got a Facebook page for Deadbolt.
Yeah, Deadbolt Films is sort of my production company where we've been making. We established it in about 2010, I think, when I made my first feature film, The Shadow of Death. And there's a little small crew of us and stuff. We all got together, and yeah, the Deadbolt film page, you can find it on YouTube or on Facebook. On YouTube, there's loads of short films on there we've done. The whole feature film, the first feature film we made, is on there live. You can watch that. And yeah, that's pretty much our little crew, which we're sort of putting stuff out with. It's pretty cool.
And you've got a podcast.
Yeah, I can't forget that. The podcast on Haunted Hill, not a name you can't forget. That's been going for a couple of years now. That's pretty good. Recorded episode 30 last night. We're a bit slack, I've got to admit. It's kind of like an episode every one or two episodes a month, which is pretty slack. It's supposed to be like every week. That's not happening. But it's pretty good, and it's on a network called legionpodcastnetwork.com. legionpodcast.com, and yeah, there's a lot of other podcasts on there, all horror related, so it's all good. We'll talk about directors or genres or all sorts. Yeah, so it's pretty good.
Okay, cool. All right, so a little bit later on I'm going to ask you about how you actually spent your £100 and what it got spent on. That is a question we're definitely going to come back to, but let's talk about Preternatural. And how did this actually, I mean, how did you guys meet, and what have you done prior to this in terms of filmmaking? So let's wind back a bit. So what filmmaking have you done prior to Preternatural?
So how we met, we were in a gents' toilet, so no, how do we meet? Filmmaking.
We're both doing music quite a while ago, sort of hip hop sort of stuff. I was DJing and he was in a group as an MC, weren't you?
Yeah, we did. Is this relevant? Is this new? I guess it does.
We're in the same sort of town, so we knew each other for these things we were both into, and we both would chat away when we saw each other, and we ended up sort of stepping onto the genre of horror. And you know what it's like when you meet someone who's into horror, you end up just chat. And so we did that, and then we kind of bumped into each other once in a while. Then I made my first feature, and I dropped off a copy to his house.
Yeah, so you're right. That's how I had to think. Then I try and put it out of my mind. And but we met when Gav had done we have friends on Facebook, as is, what happens nowadays. You never meet anyone in real life, and so we'd known each other through sort of mutual friends for a while, and he had just made a full-length feature. At the time, I was doing I had got my degree and I'd started a PhD, funnily enough, and it was to do with fear and essentially about horror films. I kind of bore you with the details, and Gav had just made a horror film, so I said, can I watch it? Can I take a look at it? I've done some reviewing, mainly of music stuff for some magazines in the past, and can I kind of see what I think of it? And then I watched it. We sort of chatted a bit more, and then more time went past. I didn't finish my PhD, and I then went back to do. I was doing screenwriting actually at a postgrad thing, and we got sort of chatting, and again because we sort of chat off and on, and said, well, maybe we can make something. Maybe we can kind of combine what we do, and I can write it, and Gav can direct it. So I didn't have a huge amount of I suppose film experience directly. I had done, again in university, I had done screenwriting with a guy called Professor Stephen Hawes, he does plays mainly, I think, in London now. and was known for translating kind of French detective dramas. He'd actually worked for he was the head of drama for Granada Television, and he'd read the first ever short film I wrote. He loved, and he said, "You should make this," which I still haven't, and that was about 10 years ago. And that's really where it kind of picked up. I said, "Well, look, I've had quite a few people tell me they've enjoyed what I've written script-wise, so maybe I should actually kind of put my money, all £100 of it, where my mouth is, and we should make something," which was great. And that was really the start of the conversation to actually, let's make something, and how cheap can we do it?
well, what it comes down to, when I made my first feature film, I was shooting it. I was trying to do it Peter Jackson style, like with bad taste. So I was doing it with all my friends, and I wasn't going to do it over like 3 years like Peter Jackson did, but I was doing it every weekend for like 3 months. And I was doing it. And then one day I went downstairs to chat to my wife, and she pretty much broke down on me, sort of in floods of tears, saying she can't take it anymore, having all the people in the house. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And I realised it can quite easily destroy a relationship, the film business, quite easily. And so I said, well, okay, if I'm going to do a film again, I need to be able to do it where we can do it very cheaply, and we can do it where it doesn't kind of hinder any other sort of part of my life as much as you can make a feature film. And the best way of doing that was saying, well, okay, what can we do? What can we make very cheaply around where we live, which we can shoot ourselves? So we don't pay actors, we can be in it ourselves and act in it ourselves as well. And because of all these points had to be ticked, it came down to the fact that we could make this movie for £100, and yeah.
And what you've got is what you've got.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think, okay, so you talk about yourself as a scriptwriter, it feels very improvised. The dialogue actually feels very natural, very naturalistic, and very much in the Mike Leigh style. Is that true, or did you literally just sit down and hammer out?
No, you're one of a number of people to obviously say that, which I take as a compliment. Maybe I shouldn't. And I'm a big fan of Mike Leigh, actually. Naked is one of my favourite movies. It's an older Mike Leigh movie, which is great. I suppose my influences come from outside horror quite a lot. I'm a big fan of older horror, and probably more drama-based horror as well. But no, actually, most of the dialogue was very tightly scripted. And what we found that when we started to deliver these lines, because obviously knew Gav, and you'd hope I knew myself pretty much, and we knew the people that were going to be in this film, it was advantageous when writing the script, of course, because I knew how we could possibly arc the story, to kind of use these characters to be in their best light, if you like, or in their most natural acting light, and to kind of try to curb the dialogue, I suppose, to do that as well. So no, it was actually really tightly structured. But what we do when we sort of, I suppose, rehearsed, I guess you'd call it, as much as we did that, is we would go over the lines of dialogue, and if anything sounded odd or out of step or didn't sound natural, we'd, I suppose, beat it until it did. So we just chat back and forth and change a few words. But I'd say most of what you see is scripted as we deliver it on screen, which probably sounds quite strange, because I say there was a guy a few weeks ago on a podcast sort of said, "Wow, this is it all seems completely off the cuff," and I was like, "Well, great, because it's supposed to be written to seem off the cuff," which I hope I achieved that.
But there was quite a few instances, because because I was shooting it, and I come from back in the day, from years ago. I was a skateboarder, and I used to film skateboarding videos before YouTube, before all that sort of stuff, and I've got quite a guerrilla style of filming, where camera in the face, camera everywhere, just shoot, and that kind of comes across in my editing style as well. So there'd be times when I was watching the footage back, and I could see little bits and go, "That's amazing," and I could just cut little parts out. So there was the odd things here and there, which we literally just went in. We had our characters, we were already in the scene doing the scene, but we'd say some other stuff, And
Yeah.
so I just put that into the movie as well. So there was these little bits here and there which are freestyle, which kind of helped.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Well, it kind of helps scenes which is obviously scripted. Then all of a sudden you've got this little block which is just something we've shot and it's come out fine, can stick together between the other blocks. So it has this nice rhythm to it. So it has a real flowing naturalism to it, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Well, I think so.
No, it definitely does. I think it is really definitely one of the strengths. Okay, so let's talk practicalities. So basically, I'm assuming that one of the reasons why it's mostly filmed outside is because your wife said, "I'm not having any filmmakers in my house again." Is that?
And you don't have to do light setups. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we come from it's no secret. It's filmed in and around Farnham, Surrey, and the area we come from is is used for hundreds of Hollywood films from Gladiator to Avengers. So there's some amazing locations we've got around here. So it was silly kind of to not use that really. It's what it came down to as well.
Yeah.
And is this just basically public land that you were using?
Yeah. We just went on like the tank site we used. We just went there and went. Let's just film it. At one point, a military guy did actually drive by. We just waved to him and he just gave us thumbs up and went past. I was like, okay, let's carry on filming. So yeah, we just got away with what we could. Like the church scene, we just literally went in the church and quickly shot the scene quick as we could, then got out of the church.
So this is pure guerrilla filmmaking.
Pure guerrilla filmmaking.
It's just. Yeah. It wasn't even necessarily a budget related thing. It was just we like these locations, they're great. Let's kind of grab a camera and run with stuff, pretty much. Yeah, that was most of it, to be honest. So, and I think probably the outdoor locations ultimately are probably the best ones in the film in terms of production value, lighting, and storytelling perhaps as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the tank site was great, and that was where I'd walked some dogs actually one morning, and a bunch of other stuff. We just knew, being local. We'd been there as kids really. So like Mother Ludlam's Cave, you see.
That's all real stuff though.
Which is all real stuff, and the stuff the things in the film are most of it we changed it very slightly, but most of those sort of tales that are, as the character of kind of Paul is trying to deliver to the camera, is true stuff to the area, because we come, as I say, from Farnham, which is, I think, if it's not the most, it's one of the most haunted places in England, because it's an old town, and there's tons of these. We've got an old castle here, and there's tons of these sites which have got legends attached to them.
Yeah.
Okay, and so so did you, in terms of the story, you decided you wanted to film outside because for the reasons you've just discussed, and was that just purely your inspiration, Paul? You just thought, right, what have we got? Let's go with this. Let's just use the local legends.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much exactly when we both looked at. The first thing we said was, what have we got, and let's make a film around what we've got. Yeah, that was kind of it. We didn't write it. Obviously, I'd written a few scripts before and not made anything, and they've all tended to be based on areas I could use, or things we could use. I'd written a script before this, which I still intend to make, and that's based on. I wrote that actually for a master's course with a guy that used to work for the BBC, and he's one of he's closely related to the Monty Python, a guy called Bernard McKenna. He was great, and I did some stuff for him, and that was basically based where I live. And he was like, this is great. It's very realistic. I love the setting. This is kind of what you're good at. So it seemed sensible to, I suppose, expand on that and kind of play to my strengths in that area, I guess.
And also trying to keep a budget down to absolute minimum. All these locations that we had available to us look really good, and it's like there's no reason why we shouldn't. We've got a cave, well, let's use a cave. There's all these things, like let's use them and let's put them into the story. So it all kind of worked out really well. Just it's basically looking around you, what you've got available, and shooting that. It works.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. And just a quick technical question: which screenwriting software do you use, Paul?
I used to use Final Draft. I used, because I mean, it's all pretty much the same. I now use, I never know if it's Celtex or Celtex, CELTX, so Celtic, Celtex, however you want to pronounce that, which is the free one you can download. It's free online. I think it's the one the BBC recommends purely because it's free, you know, like the script reading files or something.
Yeah, I think they've stopped support for the free version.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's because they've now. Yeah, because I've downloaded it, but they're not really supporting it because they're building up. Funnily enough, this is what I happen to know this because although I will double check my facts on this because the blog that I'm writing at the moment is all the different screenwriting apps because I just love playing with apps.
Yeah, sure.
And looking at different apps, what they can give you, and so on. I really struggled with Celtex. I don't know if it's Celtex or Celtex. And yeah, I really struggled with that one. And people recommended it to me because it was free. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that one. Okay, cool. So you use Final Draft, Celtex, and so on.
Final Draft is great. It was purely because I'd used when I went back to do this postgrad creative course. It was the one that was recommended by Bernard. Actually, he said you use Celtex. I used Final Draft up until that point. It's between the two. I thought it was much of a muchness. Final Draft is more kind of feature pack, but Celtics did what I needed to do really. And
I've got it as well. So
yeah.
if needed to be, he could always sort of send it over to me, the file itself, and I could open it up. Not that we actually did, but it was nice. It was nice to actually have that. It was nice to be able to have that if needs be, you know, because you can add other stuff to the script itself. You can add sort of location points and characters and costumes.
Yeah, I think there's some. I could be wrong. I think there's some formatting issues between Celtics and Final Draft, even when you export it as the correct format. I think there's inevitably line break jumps and things like that.
This is one of the things I think, particularly when you're collaborating with people, and let's face it, filmmaking is a collaborative exercise. You do want to check that everyone's got the same app, particularly if you're co-writing. Okay, so you've got your script. You've decided you're on your budget. Okay, so here is the question that everyone's obviously asking. What did you spend your £100 on?
The most expensive thing was we had to hire
grooming tools. Is mainly what we did, didn't we?
We had to hire out a hall. That was the most expensive thing,
yeah.
And that was about £55. So you're looking at most of our budget already gone. Yeah. The rest of it really was small things. We had
the wings were the next cost.
Yeah, because there's, I don't want to put spoilers on it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but there's a certain thing seen at the end of the movie, and
sure.
A bit of a costume for that. So it wasn't much of a costume, but we had to put that together, and that came to probably came to about £15 itself. But we could. It's a case of buying stuff, then working with it for the costume, because just making it look older and authentic, that sort of thing, and just putting a bit of time into it and stuff. The rest of it was.
So it's about £50 for the hall, and then I think the wings, you said 15. I'm pretty sure the wings were.
Might have been more.
I think it was 30. I think so. We're up to about. I'm pretty sure because we're up to about 85.
But
so we've got obviously 15 quid left, and I think what that went. I know. The first bit went on sandwiches we made for the first day, which cost us about £2.25, I think. And then that lasted. We're going to cater every day.
After that, everybody bring your own lunches.
And then it was just bits and bobs. So it was. What else did we spend it on? There was. I did have a list, which I stupidly don't have. There were some other little additions, as Gav said, actually, for the costumes. We had this sack and a rope. And I'll tell you what, the money we spent were on the things you don't see a lot of in the film. So at the start, there's a hall, which the majority of
this is what, because it's the movie starts with there's a couple of filmmakers making a couple of auditions, and then you have people talking to camera and so on. Yeah,
of course. And then at the end, without giving too much away, there's some wings. And you don't really see that a lot either. So, if you're trying to bring it in the colouring, I think so. You've got that. It leaves about £15 left. I think it cost us a 5 or 6 quid for the sack and this rope we had, which again you don't see a massive amount. I tell you what, the other money went on. I've just remembered. Again, in the final scene, without ruining too much, there are some robes and there's funny sort of flower headdresses. That's what the rest of the budget went on.
That's right.
And
it was all for that last shot.
Yeah, it was all for
pretty
the
much.
last shot. So
And
most of it was for the first shot and the last shot, which, well, almost last shot.
We won't. Yeah.
Which you don't see anything of at all. Interestingly, there's a coffee shop later, which you know, again, without giving anything away, we got that completely for free. The guy was lovely. I phoned the guy up, and I've got to say, I phoned this guy up and I said, "Hi, we're making a movie, blah blah blah." And before he even finished the sentence, he went, "Yeah, just come and use it." And I said, "Oh, do you want some money?" "No, do anything you want." And he was lovely. And I said, "Well, do you not want any?" "No, do anything you want. I don't care." Because I own the coffee shop. Do anything. I said, "What? We're going to bring some crew. We're going to film it. There's just anything. I don't care. So I don't even need to know. Just come in and just use the shop any way you want."
Could have been porn.
Yeah, we could have been. Yeah. It almost was.
But
that happened a lot.
That's what the budget went for, really.
Yeah.
There was nothing else, because when it came down to all costumes, was everybody wear your own clothes.
Well, we sort of
pretty much.
I wrote obviously what people needed to wear more or less, but again, people owned those clothes.
I did all production and post production myself. We didn't even have a sound guy, because I did it all on the camera on the mic, which is not brilliant for interior shots, but exterior it doesn't matter at all. You know, I've got a fairly alright Rode mic, which is on my SLR camera. But I did all production and post production, so I spent a lot of hours working on the film, a lot of hours. But that cut costs down, because I didn't have to pay for an editor, I didn't have to pay for a colour, I didn't have to pay for sound design, score, or anything. So I just did it all myself.
Right. Okay. So let's drill down into that a little bit. So technically, what camera did you use?
A Canon 600D.
Yeah.
And we had a different couple of lenses. I've got a friend who's a professional photographer. He lent me a lens, but I had a couple of lenses we could use.
Yeah.
I've got a Rode microphone, which is about £75 they cost on the SLR. What else?
That was it. We had all the equipment before previous stuff, so we actually both had 600Ds prior to this, a year or two prior to even doing this, because I was quite into photography and I'd got it to eventually make some film. Gav had it he shot some short film on it. So yeah, we both had the same camera. We both had some SD cards. Gav already had the shotgun mic.
I've got a Zoom H4n.
Yeah, he had the Zoom recorder.
So we can record some stuff, yeah. If needs be, yeah. So yeah, that was it really, technically wise.
It literally was, and the crew was. Well, you're looking at the entire crew.
This is it. we were literally there's scenes where there's 3 of us on camera in the woods, and that is who's behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. It's us 3. So literally, I'd put the camera in a tree or on a tripod, and we would just go in front of it, go, okay, we're recording, okay, action, and we just do the shots and just do it like that, really, with no crew whatsoever. But that's how you keep the money down if you're going to try and make £100 movie. You have to literally be the actor, be the crew.
We didn't originally, I think, want to act in. I'd never acted before, as I'm sure you can tell. And Gav had done a little bit, and I was more confident. I think, as most people are, I was more confident in Gav's ability because I was more confident in someone else's ability than my own. And when we started doing some test stuff, initially, because the start was quite different. There was some loft scenes and stuff, and
it wasn't working.
It just wasn't working. So we just dropped outside and said, let's just run with some other stuff. And sort of midway, I think, in the script at that point, and we were quite happy with the result. And we were like, well, maybe this will work. And then we showed it to some people, and I was like, oh god, as you do, thinking this is horrendous. I've never acted before, and they went, oh, actually, that's okay. And then I showed it to some people I didn't know, and I thought, oh, okay. Then we're going to get the real truth kind of via a channel, and they were like, yeah, that's pretty funny, or that's really enjoyable, and they laughed out loud, and I was like, oh, okay. And so maybe we've got kind of maybe we can actually do this, and it's not a complete disaster.
And another good thing really was the fact that we were shooting for like 3 hours once a week. So between the takes of shooting each week, I could then cut together what we shot, and we could see if it worked, which would help out and like, okay, do we need to change the script slightly or do anything like that, or does this work, does it not work? And because we had this strange way of me editing between shooting, which you would never do because you don't have that amount of time to shoot a film, we could progress with it in a very unusual way, but a quite organic sort of way.
Yeah, I think that really helped the editing, as Gav said. So we shoot for an afternoon or a day in some cases, and then Gav would take that footage, usually the same day, if not the next day, and edit that stuff down. So we shot more or less, probably 95% of the filming sequence.
That was that was going to be the next question. So yeah, so basically you started at the beginning and you just worked towards the end.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. So a gentleman called Barry Fay, who's a cameraman who works with the wonderful Paddy Murphy, who I mentioned earlier on, he just says believes that Celtex is free on Windows but paid on the Mac App Store.
That's possible.
So and I'm on Mac, so that's probably why I thought possibly works better on Windows than it does. Okay, so and I'm just going to wind back a little bit, and there are some questions about how many days did you actually spend filming? How many film days at 3 hours a day did you?
Yeah,
just two, just a couple.
No, looking at all the folders all my raw footage is in, it's probably about 18 to 19 days. I think in total. I think
so 18 to 19 days. So this is about a third of a year, just under a third of a year.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 months of filming.
Yeah, pretty much. We did have that spell of we didn't shoot for a few weeks actually for some reason.
I don't know why.
I can't remember why. Probably not. And but then we the midpoint turn, without spoiling too much of the film, where it changes quite dramatically into different sort of slight genre, that we shot most of that over a Saturday and Sunday, really intense shooting, because I wanted to make that like a traditional shoot. And so everyone was in that whole field of it. Rather, we couldn't have done it because we had other people involved as well. We couldn't just do the whole weekly thing. But that was fine for both of us because it's just us guys, really. And occasionally Mark stepping in when he was free. So, yeah.
So just and we've got another question coming in from Paddy Murphy, who I've mentioned earlier on. Hi, Paddy, and hi, Barry, as well. I just want to say Mark Williams is who we're talking about, because you talked about the three of you being on camera and just putting it on a tripod. And you in the forest, you running around the forest with a camera, basically. How did Mark get involved?
How did Mark get involved?
I had gone to school with Mark, and we used to play basketball together. I've known him for years, and we recently sort of drifted apart, as you do, but we still spoke every now and again, because he's a great guy. So I've known him since I was young, and he had started acting a year or two, I think, before. It could have been before that, before we started Preternatural. And I said, oh, great. And I'd gone to see some plays he was in, sort of locally and stuff. And we just got talking, and we said, oh, well, would you be interested in doing a horror movie? You know, essentially, I think I don't know what we pitched it to him as. I think I said, it's kind of weird. And I can't even remember the original pitch I threw out to get people interested. And he read the script, and when he said to me, he just looked at me, I remember this, he went, yeah, and you've never done drugs. And so he was sort of like, I don't get it. And I said, it's a movie that's not a movie, and pulls itself out of itself. So he was on board with that. And like I say, he came on and was great. He was awesome. And we thought he looked a bit like, he was always getting confused.
Statham.
Jason Statham. And he was on holiday in Thailand, and some lady apparently was on the beach. He was like, oh, bank job. And he used to, and which he does a bit, and we thought, oh, that's great. And he was the same. He did some auditions for us and with us, and we felt the chemistry worked, and he came on board like that, really. So it was kind of chance again, and just because I knew him, and he just started up acting probably 2 or 3 years prior to shooting, and we thought he was great.
And I think, if my memory serves me well, one of the reasons that we're speaking today is because Mark came bounding up to me at Fright Fest last year and saying, Nick, love your show. We've made a feature film for £100. Are you interested?
Yeah, he's very enthusiastic.
He's a great salesman.
Yeah.
He really believes in the project. He's a great salesman. But just before I come to Paddy's question, I think we talk about the other members of the cast, and that's Jane, Clark, and Evie. So how do they get involved?
Jane was in my first feature film, The Shadow of Death. She's basically the husband of my sound recordist.
Or the wife of your sound recordist.
She's the wife of my sound recordist on that film. She could be. She might run a house. I don't know. And she, when I was auditioning for that film, he said, "Oh, my wife is an actress. Do you want to audition? Okay, fine." And she came on for that. So when coming back to this, you'd seen it, and you said,
"Yeah, I had seen it."
You said,
"Don't get her involved. I hate her." No, I said.
He said, "Get her involved."
No, I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, please. If she wants to come on and do something with us." I really liked her in Gav's first feature. And I said it'd be great if she could come on board and do something with us, because I think she's a really good actress. She went to stage school, right? Anyway, and which I thought showed, and she was great. Again, she was awesome. She had a great attitude towards everything. She's lovely. She's a really nice person. Which is who we wanted on board. Do you know what I mean?
And I'd already worked with her as well.
Yeah.
And because we already had a chemistry, and she knew what I could make, because so many people like to speak and talk and say they can do this and do that. She knew what results I can come out with, so she trusted me and what we were doing pretty much.
Yes, and I say, and she was great. We were really lucky to have her, genuine, and she's just a nice person.
And Evie?
Yeah, Evie. She wasn't originally going to be in the film, and because she's incredibly shy, and she'd actually been to what did she do? I can't remember, but she had technically. She's done when she was younger all sorts of acting qualifications, and I think she's technically qualified to teach acting at some level. So she was hugely into it when she was younger, and as she sort of went on, as people do, she sort of got more and more out of it and wasn't interested in doing anything at all. And it came to the crunch where actually I think we filmed some stuff, and then I'd rewritten the script to include two females in it, because there was, I think, originally just Jane, and I said, would you do it? And she said no for a long time. And then she sort of said, well, yeah, if you need someone, of course I'll do it for you. So yeah, they just all made themselves available, and that's really how that kind of transpired.
Yeah.
I think you're very lucky in your cast. Everybody, including yourselves, come across incredibly strongly, and very clearly, and part of the writing. And speaking of the writing, Paddy Murphy asked, did you find that people, when you said you'd shown parts of your own performance to people, did you find that people laughed at parts you didn't expect to be funny, and maybe didn't laugh at the bits that you wrote to be funny?
Of course, 100%. So I think both of us, because we've got quite different senses of humour, actually, I'd say.
Yeah, we've got bits where we do connect very well, but then they're also separate.
We don't really like each other, do we?
Not really.
So
that's called chemistry.
And that's hate. Yeah. Dislike will do that. And I think both of us, Gav found certain bits funny. So some of the comedy in that I wrote, or some of the more humorous bits, if you like, I didn't necessarily find funny, but perhaps Gav would. So I thought, well, maybe that's a good thing, because so there are bits where we meet, there are bits where we differ, of course, and it was nice to have actually Gav's kind of input from a different stance to do something that perhaps I wouldn't necessarily find funny myself. And then, of course, once we chucked it out to people and people started laughing at these bits and those bits, I think both of us were baffled at certain points. We did a screening on Halloween last year, which was the first time it was shown, to, I don't know what, 30, 40 people, something like that.
Yeah, it's a bit more than that.
Okay.
But it's just funny just sitting there with the crowd, and the crowd are laughing away at things. You're like, why is that funny?
I think we're going, I don't think that's very funny, but okay.
And then there'd be complete silence when we'd be sitting there going,
slapping. Like,
no one else is laughing. Tumbleweeds,
Yeah, so without a doubt. I mean, it's like one of the, it's been said thousands of times before, better than I'm going to say it. But once you write something, of course, it's definitely, or whatever you want to call it, it's free, and people interpret it how they want. And of course, that goes with comedy probably more than anything. People. So and that's nice to see, though. It's nice that people found, I suppose, bits that weren't supposed to necessarily be funny in a particular way funny, and other bits not so much. I mean, that's what it's there to do, you know. So yeah, it's great.
So yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to do the usual shout out. If anyone would like to come and join us live, and you know you got the camera, microphone, you want to come in, be invited in, do please put in comments, and I'll invite you on. In the meantime, whilst people are having a think about that, this is a question from Joe. What is the most rewarding part of filmmaking?
For me, because it hasn't been financial gain.
Has it not?
No. For me, I think it's.
I lent you like £1. That's really pretty good.
I think it's just entertaining people. I really enjoy it. It was very strange when we had this screening, because the movie has a certain point of changing from humor to a lot more darker side of the film. It was very strange sitting there watching that, and you're with the crowd laughing away, going, "Oh, I love the comedy movies. Oh, we should just make a slapstick comedy." Then all of a sudden it changes to this dark horror film, and the whole atmosphere changed in the room, and you could feel the tension completely change. It all went quiet, and like a pin could drop, and that was really nice. So when I saw like the eerie things starting to happen, I was right there going, come on, you know, really enjoying it. So for me, I think it's that sort of thing. Sitting with a crowd watching a film is really, really good. What about you?
Oh, it's the money. Yeah. No,
There isn't any money.
There isn't, exactly. So I love it. And no, probably the same as Gav. I think the response, I think with something like this, you know, I entered into writing the script and together making the movie and going through the whole process. I suppose maybe I shouldn't admit this actually, but I will, you know, fairly unsure in a way because it's quite odd. That probably comes through in the script and delivery of certain things as well. It is, you know, it's not always stable on a number of levels. So to see people enjoy it and to maybe get things I didn't intend for them to get, if that makes sense, or to read things into it, especially coming from, I suppose, a film theory and a theory background to some degree, is amazing, really. You know, we had people after the screening come up to us, and one guy said, he started talking about influence of the Japanese cinema, which there was some, and other cinema, and I was like, wow, this guy can't remember that.
Absolutely loved it.
This guy loved it, yeah, and he got it, and I was like, whoa, that's incredible, because and it's just all the different reactions, and I think, as Gav said, sitting there and watching it with people, all the reactions afterwards, and that people enjoyed it, of course, is great. You know, I mean, the feedback we've got is way better than anything I could have expected and still do expect. You know, I'm still waiting for the release.
And that's always a good thing, making films and stuff, and just being creative, making things, getting feedback from people, and people maybe send you a quick message saying they really enjoyed it and stuff. It's just a really nice thing to do, that you can entertain someone.
Yeah,
I think, you know,
I think it literally
at the end of the day,
as simple as that, and it was nice that we could you know, just make a final product, have something that, you know, because sometimes you'll start something and it will, you know, drag on and will end. And just having done that product, and then of course all the other things feed into it. So all these things are great. Like, oh, we made it on, you know, nothing at all, and all these other things. So all those become, I suppose, really rewarding things as well. That actually we've entertained people by just fart-arsing around in the woods for £100, really, and that's it. Really is a big. I don't know what you've written, but it's. You know, I'm proud to have done that, I guess, and that's cool. That's been enjoyable.
Pride. So you say pride?
Pride, yeah, pride.
and it's interesting. So, Paul, do you think you now have the bug for acting? Do you see yourself doing more acting?
Have you seen me act? I love the sound of my own voice, so only for that reason. It was fun. It was really fun, actually. So I don't know if I have the bug, but if someone said, "Would you act?" I'd be like, "Yeah, of course I'd do it again," because it was so much fun.
I quite liked it.
Actively pursue it, but it was fun to do, and I would definitely do it again if the opportunity came.
I got to admit, I quite enjoyed acting. Actually, I did. I really did. I really got into it, actually. Yeah, it was quite funny. When we're not filming, I'm like, come on. Yeah, I think it's the thing, being the director and the filmer and cameraman, knowing that the camera's already rolling, not jumping spot, going, come on, here we go. And I was really quite hyped up, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, though.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, it was.
Okay, so again, just kind of drilling down onto some, and people basically saying they've got wailing children in the background, so they probably won't join us live. You mentioned, Gav, that you had done all the editing and you were doing this. What app do you use for editing?
I use Final Cut Pro 7 for editing. I found it perfect for me to use. There's no point in me changing really. It's a pretty old program now, but it's stable, so that works. Then I color in DaVinci Resolve, which you can download for free, which is absolutely incredible. So any editors out there who wants to color their own programs, download the DaVinci Color Resolve Lite, download that for free and watch some YouTube tutorials. It's an incredible program.
And if you're on, are you on Windows? Oh no, you must be on Mac.
I'm a Mac man, yeah.
Yeah, and they've actually just released DaVinci Resolve on the App Store.
Right, fine.
Literally within the last 2 or 3 weeks, the most recent number 12.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've updated that. Yeah, it's incredible. You can actually cut in it as well. So if you wanted to, you could import your footage direct into there and start chopping with it and have an end product in that. And it's an incredible program. And it really changes the color of your film to make it look so much more better than you can in, say, just Final Cut Pro or something like that. But yeah, that's what I use. And then audio wise, I write all my, I've got a special way I write my scores. I've got loads of samples. I've got loads of samples of old horror movies from like public domain stuff from the 20s and 30s, which I made a sample bank library years and years ago. And I put them across my keyboard and I use all these old bits and bobs and I make new scores with them. So I do that in a program called Reason, then I put that into a program called Pro Tools, and that's where I do the whole mix down in Pro Tools and the mastering. So that's all the programs I use, those 4 programs.
Right, so this is talking about the composing. Incidentally, I have just invited Mark Logan, who directed a film with myself and Lawrence Harvey in it called Rats. So Mark, you are invited. You should be receiving an invitation to come and join us live. And there he is, kind of. Hey, there he is. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Mark, just before I ask you a question, invited. You should be receiving an invitation to come and join us live.
Oh.
And there he is. There he is. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Mark is well known for his technical challenges.
Hang on, 2 secs. Always technical difficulties. 2 secs. Oh.
You need to plug in some earphones, I think, Mark, or just
there. I'm back.
You're there. Okay, I just want to share a couple of, Mark, just before I come to you for your question, I'm just going to share a couple of comments from Paddy Murphy. Japanese cinema, crazy sense of humor, bring your own sandwiches. I think we get along great. Barry says, agree 100%, showing your films and getting reaction from people is the best part of filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Barry is also really likes the new Resolve 12. It edits a lot like the new Final Cut Pro 10.
Okay.
And he really likes that. Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
No problem.
Thank you, mate. I've not seen you for ages. Not since.
No, it seems like months.
But only because it is.
It is. Well, that is why it seems like months.
Yeah. What's your question for the guys?
Well, I've got a couple. One's very quick and one's a bit longer. On the whole idea of going out and getting sales and approaching people, I noticed that you haven't got necessarily permissions from everywhere you shot. Do you envisage that being a problem? Because I know that's one of the things I keep on being moaned at, to make sure I've got permissions up front, because to get any kind of sales afterwards, or even being able to get distribution afterwards, it can affect it. So I wondered, had you run into any problems, or do you envisage any?
No, I did think I did think of all these things as we were shooting. I was very sort of cautious of what we were doing to not possibly. We've got certain shots where there's houses in the background. I've actually blurred them out because the way we were shooting really sort of guerrilla style and the way it's chopped very kind of roughly, almost found footage style. I could do things like blurring things slightly here and there. And it's mainly woodland, so there isn't really anywhere I think anyone's going to pick up on too much.
I mean, that was the advantage of having Brian involved, actually. He was the first one to pick up that we'd left a couple of things in. I think there was a Leatherface doll or something, which is New Line Cinema or whatever. But there was, as far as like the props go, you'll see all the books we've got. There's licensing on all the books because we asked them all. Skype were great. They let us license their logo and stuff for free. So as far as that goes, no, it shouldn't be. I mean, none of them are sort of, I don't think, as far as I recall, no National Trust properties or anything. They're all fairly they're all public access. And the reason I know that, we both know that, is because when they come and shoot, when they came to shoot the last, they shot Wonder Woman recently and Snow White and the Huntsman 2 around here. When they did that, they can't legally close off the area, so they just have to ask people, please don't kind of walk into shot when we're filming Nicole Kidman whizzing around or something. So, you know, like, all right. So they have to obviously, they obviously can't shut it down because it's public land. As far as I'm aware, with that goes, you're allowed to kind of show this. We need to possibly look into a bit more, but I don't think
so. I think we're fairly covered, but I was conscious of it when shooting, very much so. Yeah.
And you mentioned, sorry, Mark, just to clarify, you mentioned the name of your producer who came on board.
Yeah, Brian Patrick O'Toole. He found the script for Dog Soldiers when Neil Marshall was touting it around for a long time, and he's been producing for about 20 or so years in Hollywood, quite a lot of different films actually.
Yeah, he's done a ton of stuff.
And he jumped on board as well. And it's quite nice him coming on board. He could tell us, he could watch the film and point out stuff which might be like, oh, like he said, there's Leatherfaces in the background. And you can't have Leatherface in the background. It's just a doll, because we put it there because it has been our set piece, because we're horror fans and we want to have, like, you know, these things in the background.
It was there as well.
Yeah. And it's one of those things when you're shooting something, then you blow it up on a big screen. You're like, oh yeah, you can see all this stuff in the background. So he would pick up on those sort of bits and bobs, which is really handy to have.
Yeah, that was really useful.
Picking up on stuff like that.
Cool. What's your next question, Mark?
What kind of feedback have you had? Have you actually approached like anywhere yet as far as getting any distribution or actually getting the show?
No, not yet, because we've only sort of just started doing the whole festival submitting thing. It's one of those things, you never know which way to go. Do you, like, you know, do you do all the festivals, then you hit out loads of reviews, then you wait for any festival's going to hit it up and play it, then after that, do you then see what happens from that, or do you go the route of trying to find it yourself, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some advice from Brian, but I suppose and I pitched this to Brian when he came on board as well. Brian O'Toole, is that I never wrote this. I mean, having studied and done scriptwriting before, I'm obviously aware of structure and how films are sold and this and that. And having worked, say, with the guy from the BBC and what have you, but it was never intended, and I said this openly to Gav at the start, and this was probably my opening gambit for anyone I approached with this initially, was that it was never intended to be sold as a product. It was just, it was literally,
it was quite an experiment, really, wasn't it?
Was just, what can we do with £100? So to kind of, for people to now have taken it on board naturally, they enjoy that as a product is, I suppose, quite a surprise. So we almost didn't have that step in place. I mean, we're about to. We only finished obviously late last year, so it's only now the ball started rolling, of course, once Christmas and New Year's get out of the way. And I think, like I say, with festivals, and then there's a couple of possible, that we're going to approach. But it's possibly a difficult sell because it's not necessarily, you can't say it's necessarily horror comedy, you can't say it's found footage because, and that's deliberate, and it's inception, that was the point. So it's possibly a difficult sell, but that's also where people have enjoyed it, of course, because it's such a unique product. But as a product to sell it's probably quite possibly difficult.
We haven't approached anybody yet. No. We do want to sort of go down that route at some point. Yeah.
With the festivals, out of interest, how much are you finding it's costing you to submit?
Well,
because that's a biggie for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is the other thing when it comes down to it, submitting to festivals. So we've been trying to do as many free ones as we can, but there's only so many free ones you can do which are okay, but you have to put the money in for the ones.
Some, obviously, sort of named ones that you'd know. So not huge. I mean, what do they vary between £20 and £50 or something? Which I think, if you're gonna, you're asking someone to give up their time to critically evaluate that movie is hopefully that's what.
But
hopefully that's what you know.
You think that's what they're doing?
You know, torrent it, and you know, if you don't say so.
But it can be costly though. When you start adding up those festivals, that's when you're thinking, okay, this is almost like where they throw their however many millions in pro films, like in marketing, like afterwards, after the film's been shot and it's all done, then the money starts having to be spent, and it's a bit like, oh, you know, we've got this £100 movie, let's try and keep it that. Oh no, we can't.
But at the same time, I mean, because it's a £100 movie, we can say, well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. We haven't spent 10 grand, 15
there is
30,
that as well.
Grand on this. You know, anything is kind of it's almost negligible. You know, so because you know we did initially say, should we kind of release the budget and should we talk about that? And again, that's what we asked Brian, and Brian was like, yeah, you know, just be straight up and say that it costs this, because it can work against you, of course, especially in the States with distribution. He was sort of said, well, for that, the territories over there, it's going to possibly work against you. But he said, as far as it goes, kind of in general, then maybe just kind of throw the number out there. So, you know,
cool.
What's that? The £100 number?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was writing the advertising for this, and I was asking myself exactly the same question: is like, am I okay? And I thought, actually, you know what? It's a USP. It is your unique selling point.
My first feature, I used to, because you know Sylvia Soska, don't you?
Yes.
I chatted to Sylvia loads when I was making my first film, and I made that for £1,000, and I said to her about it, and she said, don't tell anybody it's £1,000, because, you know, if you can try and like, maybe sell it, you don't want to tell them how much it costs, because they're not going to give you so much money back, you know. But for this time round, being £100, this time round being £100, it's like when, do you remember Mark Price brought out that movie called Colin a few years back, which was a £75 zombie movie.
Yeah.
That got out. That even got into Cannes. That got on local, not local. That got on national radio, Radio 1, all that stuff, where they were saying that it was that price and that, and they used that as their unique selling point. So this time around, we're like, yeah, let's say it's £100, but of course you get the odd time. Someone did a online review of the film, and the comments underneath, one person said, "Oh, when you first wrote it as £100, I was like, I just don't care." But then, after his review, from seeing your review, I do quite like it. But yeah, people are going to be put off by text reading something which costs £100. They could be like,
I think it's worked both ways with us, where they've initially gone, oh, maybe, but then they've all watched it. No one's going to, and then not watch it.
But they can watch the trailer and see.
Yeah, and everyone that's watched it's gone, whoa. You know, I think the comments we've got, I think someone says, you know, I hope this little film gets the chance to be seen because it's bigger than its budget, whatever kind of, you know, which was the point. You know, it was like, what you know, £100, you can make a feature film. You can make a feature film. You can make a feature film that's hopefully entertaining. You can make a feature film that actually does something completely different from the norm as well, with no money. And that was always the plan. I mean, the original budget was £50, and we doubled that. And so scary times. And we doubled that. And but you know, it was literally just, what can we do with £100 for an experiment? And kind of here we are, you know, chatting to people on the internet, getting reviewed in the States and all the rest of it, and that in itself is.
So I don't think it's a problem.
To me.
I don't think it's a problem, especially in this day and age where a lot of people can go out there and make a film themselves, which obviously saturates the market with everybody can literally make something and upload it on YouTube now. But pretty much. But I don't think it hits people off too much, but yeah, some people are going to look at it and be £100 movie. I'm not going to even bother watching it. It is going to put some people off, definitely. But you know, we had to give it a go, so why not?
Yeah.
Okay, well, just winding up the show towards the end of the evening. Hold on, Mark, I'm going to mute you.
It's not me.
It is you. Oddly enough, I can only hear my voice once now, Mark. I'd just quickly share that Paddy Murphy, there are always platforms like Distributor, although they can be expensive. But yeah, I think it's cool. It was an experiment with the opportunity to become saleable, possibly.
Please give us money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mark, I did just mute you. Did you have any more questions, Mark? I can't hear you, Mark. You have to unmute yourself if you want to ask another question. Shake your head or nod your head, Mark.
Okay. There.
Yes.
Better?
Yes, much better.
After having made a £100 feature, I noticed you talked earlier about making a short next. What's the budget of the short likely to be?
That's his short, not mine.
Oh, well, I get probably more than £100, ironically. So, although again, it's you know, the actors I've got earmarked for it, as far as I'm aware, are happy to do it for free or for very little, and it's made to be shot where I live. You know, they're inherently probably the movies I like the best anyway. You know, in any genre, movies that are kind of pared down, that are in some way intimate. I mean, I don't know if Preternatural is entirely that, but it's rather, you know, I like the things that are kind of, I suppose, you know, smaller focused, if you like, rather than, and Preternatural's maybe not that, but rather than some huge blown out sort of Michael Bay production. I mean, of course, you know, there's a time and a place for those things, but it's not necessarily what I enjoy. So that's kind of, so what I write tends to be things with very few characters, and it's fairly, I suppose, dialogue based, you know, so it lends itself to what I kind of feel would do naturally. But to answer your question, yeah, maybe more.
I'm actually thinking of making the next feature and trying to make it for absolutely nothing. I don't know if that can work. I went through my props box the other day and I literally labelled all my props box. Cowboy boots, Ronald Reagan mask, fake gun, and I was just going all through this stuff. Like, can I write a script to all these things? You know, can I do a movie for nothing?
Well, I will be really interested to see it. Please keep us informed about how you get on. I'm going to make sure you're part of the Chattering with Nicholas events group on Facebook, so you can feed back to people there. And I'm sure they're going to be really interested to find out where it's coming online. But just to remind you, you can go on Facebook and find the Preternatural 2015 Facebook/ Preternatural 2015 is the Facebook page, or just look for Preternatural. I found it like that. I just wanted to thank Mark for coming on. It's nice to see you, mate. And we shall look forward to hearing more about rats in due course.
Picture lock is imminent. I'm going to film one more evening tomorrow.
Oh wow, that is imminent. That is definitely imminent.
I'm going to take an old friend who you spent some time in the jail with back to the castle tomorrow night. So.
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me about that moment of my life. Yeah, more on that. Well, when it comes, yes,
indeed,
we'll come back and find out some more about that. Gav and Paul, thank you so very much indeed for coming and joining me on the show. That's been great. We're getting a lot of interest in this.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Chattering with Nicholas Events, and I've been chattering about Preternatural, the feature film made on a budget of £100. I do recommend it. It's a really interesting piece. We'll let you know how we get on with how that gets on, and we'll see you next week when I'm going to be chattering away with Gigi Guerrero. Really looking forward to that. That's going to be great fun. I've not spoken to Gigi before, but I really like what she describes as her Tex-Mex style of horror. Very interesting films, including El Gigante. Yeah, so I will see you in next week. Say goodnight, everybody. Say goodbye. Bye. 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 You can say goodbye as well, Mark, if you like. No, he's used it himself.